Right. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Faraz here. I'm a co-founder with Let's Unbound, and I'll be taking you through the presentation tonight. As I was just saying that we're just waiting for a couple of minutes. Now it is at the perfect time for us to start across. So tonight it's about really turning, let's say, a dream, which is I want a UK degree, into a kind of a GPS with precise checkpoints. So by the end of our session today and by the final slide that we have, you'll be walking away with understanding what kind of universities exist in UK. What is the admission officer typically looking across from an application? He wants to be looking in your grades. How are they looking into your points? What is the tests that are sometimes required within UK itself? The personal statement. And very contrary to the applications you may have heard from me while you have joined the previous sessions around USA, UK applications are not all running by the exact same platform or the exact same system. Every university has got its own peculiarities. So while we'll be going through this whole presentation today, we'll be trying to get you accustomed to those differentiation. But as you'd understand, we cannot cover every single university out there. We'll try to give you an overall understanding, which could really equip you to start understanding or start, challenging the topic of UK admissions in the right way. Now, why bridge your dreams to a UK campus, one application at a time? Because you see, UCAS is literally a single bridge. It's one form throughout the country. It's not like the US. We have got UC system different, you've got a UT system different, and you've got the common application. You've got applications going through direct. Here it is one form, right? You've got five courses slash five university that you select from. And in those five university applications, you can make one either into Oxford or Cambridge. And a lot of times these universities, Oxford, Cambridge, are referred to as Oxybridge, right? So that's just one of those industrial jargons. So you can only make an application to one of those universities out of your total five. So you realize there are a lot of hidden trapdoors within this whole application system. Now, if you miss a date, if you misread a tariff table, and and anything that goes wrong in terms of not applying at the right time, in terms of the deadline, that bridge will lift just like the London drawbridge. So our job tonight is to give you a really good understanding about it and keep that bridge lowered for you and well lit path that would really make you understand how do we go ahead in terms of understanding with this whole application with UK specifically. But before we get into the topic of UK, I just want to first introduce you the organization, which is also conducting this event today. Let's Unbound. Let's Unbound began as an organization that was really focused on skill building, which was empowering elementary, middle school students with STEM, life skills, mentorship. And as these students progressed to high school, they started seeking out for college admissions guidance, and that's where we listen. We evolved our services to seamlessly integrate the storytelling through applications into our already well-established mentoring programs. By now combining personalized learning, skill development, strategic admission support, we guide students right from their early academic years to global universities. Today, we have impacted more than 4,000 students across 25 countries and have delivered more than 125,000 of expert mentoring. Our commitment to excellence has earned us a 4.9 out of a 5 global rating. In the past, we have partnered with really prestigious organizations, where Harvard Students Agencies being a prime example, along with Arizona State University Prep Digital, has really ensured that the students that we have worked with have received that world-class educational experience while preparing for these admissions abroad. So at Let's Unbound, we don't just prepare students for exams, we really prepare them for life. Now, moving across and giving you a quick introduction about the founders behind the organization. On your left, you have Amol Patil, who is a serial entrepreneur and education visionary with an experience in Tata and Exceed, India's largest school edtech platform. Amol has helped scale impactful educational solutions across more than 2,000 schools across six countries, impacting more than 250,000 students. He's really known to blend his business thinking with on-school ground realities and has been instrumental in helping startups from IIT Bombay and beyond succeed in this whole education space. Nishant on your left, he is a mentor, he's an educator, he's really the brains behind majority of the learning pathways that we share with our students. He's with more than 14 years of work experience across academy and industry. He has counseled over 1,000 students and has designed curriculums across K-12 to executive MBA programs. He's an alumnus of SP Jain, a top-rated teacher, and a proud mentor of change under Atal Innovation Mission Niti Aayog. So this is a quick, description about the other co-founders within the organization. I will be conducting this webinar today. It's just a quick overview of my own profile. I've been within consultancy for the last decade plus. I have worked with organizations as Jaguar Land Rover, Citibank, Standard Charter, Citibank and Stancy within my financial consultancy job role. And within education, I've worked with brands as Crimson Education and Added Education. Both of them are international players from Singapore and New York, with again that focus of admissions abroad. Now, just to give you a quick roadmap of what are the various things that we'll be discussing. So, very obviously, the primary thing that we'll get the whole session started off by would be the UK admissions. What are the UK admissions officers looking for? What is the application process? What are the documents that go across with it? And the various weightages. So, by weightages, I really say, how does the admission officer look into your document? So, the view from the other side of the table would be a very apt way to really look into those weightages. Moving on, we will be then breaking down the whole application process. So, for example, your UCAS tariff score is a very crucial part about your academic. So that's one part, which is there in your application process. We'll then divide it up. We'll give you the calculation method, what is the whole understanding behind it. How does the CBSE and ISC student also, come into this whole foray while you're applying for a degree abroad, specifically UK, and then the various UK admissions test and the personal statement, the UCAS one, which a lot of you guys may know has just gone for a set of changes. There are three questions now instead of that open-ended single question. We will then conclude our session as we always do, discussing an overall approach for students preparing for this journey and try to share as much as the resources in our last section across the master classes that we conduct, the newsletter, the digital platform that we are constantly using to share all of these resources, and eventually a registration for all students who then want to understand the activities, the aspects that I'll be explaining you now on one-to-many basis to one-to-one kind of an approach where we'll be able to understand your individual current status and really connect it. How viable is it for a UK application, and obviously overall admissions abroad, looking into different countries. So that one part I will have you see during the registration at the end of our session. Right. So now we'll be starting across with our presentation. But before I do so, I would just like to understand a little bit about the audience that has joined me across. So one of those first things that I'd like to hear from you guys, I'll be just launching this quick poll, which is of your current grade. I think it'll just be launched now. So you could just go and select an option reflecting the current grade that you are in till the year 2026. So just give me a good understanding of my audience, of what kind of age group are they typically belonging from. So we do have a very good participation from grade 10, grade 11. We do have kids coming in from grade 9 as well. So I'll just leave it there for a couple of more seconds so we could have a few more participatory responses. We're still getting more. Yeah, so I think I'll just give it another couple of seconds. I'll just request, I think just 4 or 5 more people that are left to just cast their vote. Yeah, so I think we've gotten the reply. Majority of the kids, as I see, are really spread across from 9th, 10th, and 11th. We do also have a good share of students joining us from grade 12. Now, I'm just ending this poll. We're moving on to this other one where I just want to understand from your side, even though we are discussing UK at a great length, are there any other countries that, as just an audience, I'm trying to understand what is that weighted share of UK, even though this is a UK presentation. I hope students do end up voting for UK itself because, again, it kind of defeats the purpose if no one wants to know about UK and the whole webinar is around that. But thank God for that reason. We have got a good amount of students who are actually looking towards these applications themselves. USA, as always, has been a close follower with Australia. With others, I do assume Singapore, rest of Europe are definite countries that you guys will be looking across at. Right, but yes, the strongest participation again is from UK and US both. I'll just be now ending this poll. We have got the same amount of voters as the first session. Now, this is just the last poll, and I'm sorry, I'll just be now starting off with my session. The major, while you're voting, I'll just be now starting with my presentation itself. Why am I leaving this major question as the last one before I actually want to get started with the presentation? Because it is the major declaration which really defines the whole UK application in terms of its difference with USA. And I can see a lot of students that have joined onto the webinar today are kids that I'm anyways working for in terms of USA. And I'm sure a lot of kids would have joined today that know about US admissions, and they know about this whole aspect that US has this one peculiarity that declaration is of major is not mandatory. But here is that first differentiation that one needs to understand about UK admissions is that the declaration of major is extremely mandatory. It is at a large stage very similar to what you see here in India. That once you have decided your major, your application changes to even a point, even in UK, that if you're doing a medical, let's say, a degree, you want to study medicine. For all of the students who have selected medicine on the poll that I'm seeing today now, all of you kids, you will need to apply for UCAT, right? The kids that are looking for engineering, depending on the college, they'll be giving different tests. We will be sharing all of those STEM-based entrance exams today. The same thing with students within maths. If you're applying for, let's say, Oxford, you would be going through TSA, that's Thinking Skills Analysis Test. So within UK, one of the primary things that you all need to understand is that your major is going to be declared, and it's going to hold a very important aspect to the way that you're going to be preparing this whole application. Now, what is the admission officer looking for? Where he already has this first bit of information that he has your major. So unlike USA, UK, and very similar to India, will look for a scholar. They know what you want to study. You have made that as a declaration. They will now start to look across within your profile. How do you come across and really showcase the passion, right? Passion in terms of evidence, what you have read, what you have done in that degree that you're really looking across for, things that have really, challenged you as well. So that kind of passion that needs to come through. What's the rigor that you've had? Did you choose, let's suppose, the hardest syllabus available in the degree that you wanted? For example, have you gone beyond the courses in school but have taken courses outside? Even though AP is a course which is related to USA, in terms of UK, it does still show academic rigor. So at the same time, you also do have resilience. You do talk about a personal statement at the end of the day. You talk about passion, you talk about rigor, but you also do talk about resilience. You don't talk about a personality, but do remember this is resilience connected to the major that you're trying to pursue. So it's more really talking about, have you failed in a project that you were working at? How did you pivot? How do you come out of it? So all of those things are going to be extremely important. And so overall, the narrative with the UK application is always that if you're applying for a degree, clear that major out and you talk about that major in a passionate way, in a rigorous way, and you try to show resilience. Now, moving across to the next part, which is trying to understand which are the kind of universities that are available in UK. Now, that's that first thing that you need to understand. As I've said, what we are trying to do today is trying to create a GPS. Now, the GPS, the first step of it is to mark the destination. So your destination are universities. Now, if you see on your left-hand block, these are largely your mission and policy groupings of colleges that you'll be largely seeing across. Right. So at the very top, you have got your Russell Group. So that's got 24 colleges onto it. It's got some of the most prestigious names, Oxford, Imperial, Manchester. All of these top universities are part of the list here. You'd see students trying to go for those universities are really looking at, for example, that Nobel level labs, huge libraries, the toughest entry requirements. This is the club that you need to know. So that's those students who are really trying to get into the top tier of colleges. Russell Group is that grouping that you should be looking. Now, moving down, you'll see University Alliance. So their watchword is professional, technical learning, think placement with industry. You've got internships happening, you've got your jobs, your degrees going across. So it's a very, very hands-on kind of universities. The University Alliance, which has got 16 names on it. You do also have another name, which is called Million Plus, which comes next. These universities lean into widening access and flexible routes for commuters. and mature learners. So it's really a different kind of, again, a kind of university that you could look at. You also have a Guild HE grouping. You've got a cathedrals group as well. So these are various kind sorry, pardon me, of universities that you could look across at. Now, hop onto the middle column and you would switch from alliances to your historical labels. So again, there is between all of these three categories that I'm trying to give you, there will be, let's say, crossovers. There are a lot of historical universities as well that will be part of the Russell group any which ways. But within your historical labels, you first have your ancient universities. So there are only six that exist in Britain, which is your Oxford, Cambridge in England, and then four other are in Scotland. Now they are centuries old, they're steeped in collegiate system, and they still really rely heavily on interviews. So if you're looking into those ancient ones, you've seen you're applying to, for example, in Oxford or in Cambridge, the ones that are within UK, you are going to be having those interviews and see how this kind of knowing these differentiations would get you better prepared for the application. So now then you move across to your red brick ones. We've got Birmingham, you've got Leeds, you've got Manchester, and like these were founded to educate engineers and doctors for booming cities. So if you're looking at these kind of degrees, these universities may not overall have a very high ranking, but for these specific degrees, do quite well. So likewise, you've also got this plate glass, bifurcation. You've got these universities, which are also called your post 1992 one. So one of my suggestion is to look into all of these various categories and get yourself well versed with all of these different headings. Now, you'd also move across and see your specialist and alternative providers as well. You've got your performing arts, conservative, you've got art and design schools. You've got not something which is really largely seen from that Indian perspective, but you do have these other two options, the land-based agriculture, industry embedded. Largely, if I'll see the students that have joined me across today, will be looking at the other various categories of colleges. But just to give you an overall understanding, these are the categories that exist within UK. Just give me a second. I'll just have a glass of water. Yeah. Now, we're just moving across to the next slide, which is looking at application process, the whole thing, which I largely believe there's something like of a conveyor belt. You start with your academics, you move on to personal statement, references, tests, interviews, and then finally you get your offer. So the belt moves even if you hesitate. So miss the UCAT registration, delay any predictive grades, do not stand for a specific entrance test which needs to be given before you're going to be applying. For example, the UKCAT, the UCAT, the LNAT, the TSA, and you've almost let go of your admission for that year. So making sure that we are covering everything in that right manner is going to be very important. So this is the graphics of your entire UCAS file in the next four need boxes. Now we're not trying to look into all of those other points as your personal details or your country details. We're just focusing on those parts of the application which are largely make or break. So the first column that you see, it is academics. Now, this is largely your major based exams that you'll be giving. So as I've already said, you've got your UCAT, which is for medicine. You've got LNAT, which is for law. And depending on those various colleges, the ones that you'd be applying, you may, and also in various conditions, may not be giving an entrance exam. Now, beyond that, your grade 12 scores, your growing grades from 9th till 11th, all of these are extremely important. If you are coming in from India or another country where English is not the first language, you may have to give an IELTS or TOEFL. But if you have taken, let's say, IB or A level and you have done English on that, and for example, on IB, you have done it on HL, you do not have to go through IELTS or a TOEFL exam. So that's the first column which comes across in terms of academics, which is very crucial within your UCAS application, and how more crucial we'll be discussing it at the at the aspect of the weightages. From then we're moving on to the next part, which is then your personal statement. Now UCAS is now replacing the old 4,000 character essay with three laser focused questions. Now, we'll be going into those things in extreme detail, but just as an overall, why this course? Have your studies prepared you for the course that you're selecting? What have you done beyond the classroom? So you'd have to think of them as a story in three tweets. hook with an intellectual passion, prove subject mastery, finish with impact and reflection, draft, sleep on it, slash the fluff, and clarity beats poetry every time with all these three questions. And that's the whole objective of, going through it in that form. What are the minimum, word character requirements? What's that line situation? We'll discuss once we get into this whole aspect. Now, we move on to the third column. UCAS allows you a single letter of recommendation. So choose a teacher who really knows your daily grind, who knows the input or the work that you've really put in to that specific major area that you're looking at. So give them the brag sheet of your projects, competitions, and even setbacks. As I've said, resilience is a very important thing. So even share your setbacks that you've overcome. So their letters really add the overall color to your personality, and not just cliches as exams well, behaves well, and fares well. And this document really becomes a personified existence of your own personality. Now, moving across to the other last column, which is the interviews. So most universities, I'll be very honest, do skip this part, but specifically, universities like Oxford, Cambridge, if you're going for medical admissions, you're going for law admissions. So there are a lot of areas where you would be doing an interview, and often you will find an alumni from your country, from the university, having a Zoom session with you, firing you with all kind of problem-solving questions. They'll really gauge you how you think out aloud, right? How you handle being in a wrong situation, a difficult situation, and whether you light up when you talk about the subject that you're interested in. So it's really trying to verify the whole documentation that you have put away. So the big takeaway is, if these four boxes are strong, coherent, grades that match predictions, a statement that screams that fit, and a teacher who really collaborates your story, you've got the right kind of situation for your interview, and you're on track for that offer letter. Now, moving across from what needs to be submitted to trying to put it across into an overall timeline. So your registration every year, and also as this year opened on 14th of May, where you could start, looking into your UCAS hub, getting it registered. By 3rd September is when it will go live for writing and sending across. 15th of October is going to be your first deadline, which is going to come across for your Oxford and Cambridge. And do also remember, if you're applying for Oxford Cambridge medicine, then that deadline is 1st of October. Then you largely your rest of your applications, the closure dates would be fluctuating between 15th to 29th of January, and in this case, 29th of January 2026, where you could be expecting your results to be coming anywhere between May to August of 2026. And also to remember, all those kids who are looking at any finance applications or looking at any scholarship applications, which also I would remind you, not a lot do exist for international students. But in case for Indian kids, just giving out an example, Birmingham University does have a scholarship, but it is largely a financial aid rather than a merit-based scholarship. So these are the key important deadlines or dates that one needs to look at. You can start, as I'm just repeating again, start submitting your information from the 3rd of September, where 1st or 15th of October is your first deadline. 1st of October being the Oxford Cambridge medicine deadline, 15th of October being your Oxybridge, all of the other deadlines for Oxford and Cambridge, and your overall deadlines will hit by the end of Jan. Now, we will move on to the next slide, in which I'm just about to make that switch. But before I do, I'm just introducing. So for now, for example, so far what we have discussed is looking into the admissions from your side of the table. Like for example, what all needed to be covered, right? The things that needed to be put across to it, the things that you needed to look at. And from that point onwards, we moved to this stage, which is looking at the admissions from the other side of from the table, from the admissions officer. What am I really now typically saying? That since you've submitted your academics, how does the admission officer value? If you're looking this in terms of USA, just to create that contrast in international admissions, this first academics is only as high as 40%. UK puts far more weightage on it. Something similar to India, but India would be putting this at 100%. UK still has that at up till 75. Whereas I've been saying, your grades from 9th till 11th, your predictive scores in 12th, the academic test scores dependent on your major, wherever it is supposed to be. You will be putting that through. All of that put together really adds up to 75%. The next 25% would be coming through your super curricular and leadership activities, which obviously not like the Common App. You've got 10 separate list of activities to create. You've got the personal statement to share all of this information. But all of the activities, for example, any student within law, what is the exposure that you have gotten yourself within that area of law? You talk about those various super curricular projects. So projects that are connected to your major, all of them being written in the personal statement. And the last 10% is obviously allocated to your letter of recommendation, the interview, the overall personal statement itself that would be securing this application. So yet again, you can see in terms of a UK application, the most important part is your academics. And you'll also see it in our presentation now, moving on from this point onwards, we'll be largely focused. A lot of those information that we need to share across is going to be academic heavy. So having said this, I'm just moving on and introducing the new next topic, which is looking into the UCAS tariff score. Now, what is the UCAS tariff score? So overall, just give me 1 second. Just all right. So let's now decode this yellow box that you could see with this phrase UCAS tariff, which doesn't even really feel too much like admission. So think of tariff as one giant currency converter. For every post 16 qualification is basically grade 12 in terms of which UK recognizes at level 3, which is A levels, which is IB, which is, you've got BTech Nationals, you've got EPQ, you've got various other things that comes across there. And within your UCAS tariff, you can also have your Trinity score. Now, this is also a very interesting thing that a lot of UK colleges are using. So all of that put together creates that tariff score. Now, but why do you bother? Because let's say admission teams now set offers in two distinct styles. If you go onto the website, and I'll be sharing that website to you once we get to that aspect, you could really go to a university and see where the straight offer is being made. And they will just write very clearly that you may have to get a triple A at A level or two A stars, one A at A level, and it'll give you a percentage of how many students were admitted at that grade. The other thing that it also offers you is it will offer you points to compare. So 128 to 100 and 120 to 128 UCAS tariff points. These are those exact UCAS tariff points that I'm meaning. So any mix of grades that reaches 120 for this one example that I'm saying will meet the bar in terms of admission. Now, the second style is really gold. And when I'm really talking about that 120 to 128 is really gold for students with a mixed profile. And what am I really saying in terms of that? It's those kids that, have gone and taken their academics, but then, have also done an EPQ, which is kind of an extended essay for the A-level students, but have also, merged it across with, let's say, a Trinity grade 8 in violin or in music or in guitar, because even those points will get, added across to your overall scoring. But do also note, this is not universal. So Oxford, Imperial, and majority of your medical courses will not really be going through this, because medical again will be putting much more focus on your UCAT result rather than looking into your overall tariff score. So, but again, for a lot of universities, it is very important for you to be looking into this UCAS overall tariffs and understanding how your score will be created. Right. So now, without further ado, we'll just move on to the next part. Just give me 1 second. I'll just, yeah. Now we'll just move on to the next slide, which is now understanding how are these points largely worked out. Now, on the backdrop, there's a lot of way how your 56 is created, your 48 is created, or your 40 is created, but we will not go into the background calculation of that. I think anyone within their own times can actually find out how you do it. It's largely a calculation in which A is 14, A star is 14, A is 12, B is 10, C is 8, D is 6, E is 4. And you have just multiplied all of that into 4 since you've been studying this for 2 years. So that's where, if you see on your screen now, you'll be seeing that A star doesn't read 14, but it reads 56, right? Because you've multiplied that into 4. You've multiplied 14 into 4. So the same thing is A 48, B 40. So all you got to do, these results, you just divide them by 4. You'll understand what are they individually. But for the scoring purpose, this is how you need to be calculating A star, A, B, what you can see currently on your screen. And that's the same example that I've also shown in the table below, where for your calculation of your tariff score, they'll be looking at your top 3 subjects and they'll be adding it. So for this, for example, this student had gotten 2 A star and a single A. So 256, 148, a total of 160 tariff points. So for example, if he's applying to the university with a cutoff of 120 tariff, or it tells you that an average of 120, 128 are the tariff points required, and you're sitting there with 160, you could easily put this college into your safety net, where you'll be 100% sure of getting admitted through. So these kind of clarity within your UK application does, at time makes it look at as it in a very easy way. But do remember, the primary way of getting blinded is not lack of light, it's the access of light. So it's one of those paradoxical situations where, obviously it starts to look like, since I already have this number, it's very easy to understand where to apply. But on the crux, it is actually not. It really gets more confusing with all of these numbers coming through. Now, a lot of you guys would be also imagining that, in our scenario, we're not only kids with A level. I've also added data there for IB. So IB, let's suppose all of your HL subjects I have put there in that second line. If you get a 7, that is again a 56. If you get a 6, it is a 48. For a 5, you get a 32. And the calculation would differ if you're doing that for SL. And in term of your IB, the TOK, the extended essay, the CAS, so you've got your other points that would be added, just exactly to give you the same kind of balance that an A-level student would be getting for his own extended essay. So this is how, for example, now your score, which you have gotten on IB, on A levels, is being turned over to this conversion, through this conversion into your UCAS score. Now the question comes across, what's the story for students that are preparing from India? What is the story for students from CBSE and ISC? Now, students from these two boards do not have a direct conversion calculator, which can be used across for your UCAS tariff. On the contrary, what is happening is, while you'll be accessing the UCAS website, and I'll be sharing this website to you while I'll show you some screenshots, you can go to all of these universities, and all of these universities share this data out, saying, for example, if you see on your screen the top table, which has Birmingham, Manchester, and Leeds. So at Birmingham, if you have 90% in CBSE or ISC, they will evaluate that as, 2 A's and an A star. If you have got 85%, that is 3 A's. If you've got 80%, that's 2A and a B. And so then likewise, that same story goes across for Manchester University, that goes for Leeds. And on the second tier of colleges, that's I've just selected the next rank of colleges itself. So you could see the criteria at your UCL, your Imperial, your LSE. So this is how students which are not on your international boards, but from Indian boards, can be largely looking across in this. Now, I was also referring at the earlier stage that your UCAS status score is not just there for your academic subjects. As a matter of fact, it can be used for all of these different aspects, right? You could be using it across for your music from, Trinity, which is largely from grade 6 to grade 8. Just for all of those students who have joined us across today and are pursuing Trinity, if you look at the table below, your grade 6 to grade 8, you dependent if you get a pass, merit, or distinction, these are the amount of points that would be added across to your score. Right. But do remember that only from grade 6 and beyond. Likewise, you've got Lambda, acting, and public speaking, which again from grade 6 to 8, which is perfect if you love debating. You could also have your RAD, Ballet Advanced Foundation. You do also have Trinity Speech and Drama grades. You also have Lambda, P-Cert Lam Diploma, which is, a 1 year performance certificate, which is actually worth 16 points itself. So all of these various different courses that you would do can add up to your scores that would be required for admission. Now, moving after explaining you how are the scores added up, I just now want to show you an example of three universities sharing out their points. So you can see this first one where you need to get tariff scores from 96 to 108. So all of your top three subjects, whatever scores you've gotten, the score that you have gotten for your extended essay, the score that you have done for your trinities, either music or drama or ballet, whatever all of that thing that you have done, you add up all of those tariff scores and then you can compare it to all of these universities. Now, as I was saying that I'll just share you the link in which you'd be able to go and get into all individual universities and courses. Once you link into one of these various universities, you'll be able to also see that do I need three A stars or two A stars plus an A or two A's, one B. So it'll even be further described and made better clear once you go further into these links, just to understand. So for now, I've put the overall link onto the chat section where you guys could access and see this platform and understand how your current standing works across with the whole application. So that's the overall information that I wanted to give you in terms of the UK tariff score. So UK tariff score, again, as a repetition, is like a currency converter, which takes your grades either from IB to A level, various different activities as Trinity, as drama, speech, and give it into a singular score which a university can use in terms of going through with its admission. Now, after looking over the tariff score, we're moving into the next part of our app of our presentation today, which is looking into the personal statement first and then the whole admission tests that are there within UK itself. Now, this is how the personal statement has really evolved from, let's say the 4,000 characters that students used to write in an one open-ended question. So now you have three separate questions that you'd be answering. You would be having minimum of 350 characters. There is no upper ceiling per question, but the overall across the three questions should not exceed 4,000 characters, which is roughly, let's say, 650 to 750 words or 47 lines. So if you cross 47 lines and you haven't done 4,000 characters, adding all of the three questions, that's where it's going to be limited to. So just to recap you, the three sections themselves do not have any higher limits. They only have a minimum 350 character limitation per question. On an overall, adding the three answers, you cannot, cross 4,000 characters or cross 47 lines. 4,000 characters is approximately, give or take, 650 to 750 words. Now, those are the laws that you should be really looking at. Now, let's move into the questions themselves. So why do you want to study this course? This is largely as we call the motivation for the course. This question really asks you for a clear explanation of why are you drawn to the field that you have chosen. Admission officers really want to understand your specific interest in the subject so they could avoid, those generic reasons. Now, how do you really want to go approach this? So try to think about your interest. When did it really begin in the subject? Was there, let's say, a particular moment in your life, in your class, in your school that really sparked that curiosity? Now, and then move on to try to personalize your response by including some personal insights, some personal events that really made you move into this area. Now, for example, someone's interest in psychology was developed by reading a case study on childhood development in high school class, or by seeing a certain disease within the fraternity of his connection, let's say the family, the larger society, that got the person interested in medicine. So those kind of incidences, stories really are very important. Why do you really want to study this course? Now, moving that across for what is your preparedness for the course? How have your qualifications and studies helped you prepare for this course? So universities want to know if you've really gone beyond your academic foundations and develop skills to really handle the course that will be, that the course will be demanding from you at an undergraduation level. So try to mention relevant subjects, try to mention projects, experiences, extracurricular activities that increase your understanding in that subject area, increases your experience in that subject area. So, for example, a student talking about a biology course, a biology internship, or let's say conducting an independent research on genetics, which taught the student how to design, let's suppose, experiments or how to interpret data. This experience then equipped the student with a really solid foundation for advanced studies in that specific area of, let's say, life sciences. Now, moving on to the third question, which is to really deal with preparation through experiences. So, what else have you done to prepare for outside of education, and why are these experiences useful? So, this question offers an opportunity to highlight really your extracurricular activities around volunteering, around internships, largely jobs that have really enriched your understanding and have really prepared you for that university level studies. So choose experiences that have strengthened these relevant skills. Perhaps in internships, as I've said, can give you a really good insight of the practical side of your field. Understanding or liking finance on the book is very different, but then going out and taking a practical experience and the kind of specialization that you'd want to go for. Trying to do an internship in an engineering firm if you're looking for a STEM-based degree. So all of those various activities really lets the admission officer know that the student has gone beyond just looking into those subjects from a school level, but is also trying to understand those majors on a very practical level by doing a lot of practical activities beyond the limitations of school. Now, we'll move on to the next point of our conversation, which is now taking us away from, let's say, just in terms of your academics of your school, the personal statements, the UCAS data system. We have done all of that. Now, one of those, again, peculiarity or differentiating things about UK from US is the admissions test. And now that brings us to that various section. Which are the various admission tests? Why are the admission tests? What's the overall aspect? So, firstly, the first thing that you can see that it is selective, which is, it's a filter beyond your grade. So think of these tests as largely as an MRI scan. So your board marks tell them that you can memorize and, let's say, reproduce. The test tells them that how can you reason when the textbook is in front of you. Critical thinking for law, spatial rotation for engineering, data analytics for medicine. How do you perform in all of those different various aspects? Now, the other thing is that you need to understand about UK admissions tests. These are course specific. So you only sit for a test if your subject needs one. Medicine, dentistry, as I've said, UCAT. Law, you've got LNAT. Maths or computer science at Oxford, you could be giving MAT, you could be giving TSA. Engineering at Cambridge or Imperial, you've got ESAT. Right, PPPE from Oxford, you're looking at TSA. So pick your major, then check if the gatekeeper exam really applies for you. The other thing that you need to look is that these tests are largely run by external bodies. So Pearson, BOE host the UCAT worldwide, the Oxford, Cambridge tests were the ones that do your MAT, TSA, PAT, TMUA. So all of these various exams are then conducted by these various bodies. So you need to plan early because majority of these tests would be happening anywhere between July to October of your 13th or your 12th year, which is well before your conditional offers. And no UCAS tariff points, are allocated to the test scores that you have. So UCAS tariff points are allocated to your grade 12 scores. That's allocated to your activities as Trinity School of Music, but there are no tariff points that you would be earning on the basis of your results. Now, to run you through with a few of those exams that we do have. So the first one that you can see on your screen, this is the once. Yeah, this is your, I think I jumped to, yeah. Now you can see on your screen, it's the UCAT one. So the UCAT is now a computer-based aptitude which is therefore majority, or I'll say almost all of your UK medical tests, medical and dental schools. Previously, there was a BMAT that was being conducted, which was largely for your universities as Cambridge, Imperial, Oxford. But now that has been discontinued, and all of those results, I mean, all of those entrance exams have been changed over for the UCAT. Now, the test window for UCAT for the year of 2025 is from 7th July to 26th of September, and registration has opened from 18th of June. So do try to book early. This is a 2-hour examination, which is going to be conducted at your VUE centers worldwide. Do make sure if you're looking at a top school, top college as an Oxford or a Cambridge, where the deadlines is 1st of October for medicine. So do try to complete this as early as possible largely during your early August and early September's. Don't leave it for the last moment. And at the end, your score bands is between 1200 to 3600, where you've got your SJT band from 1 to 4. So there's actually no pass mark. Each university will set its own cutoff there. Now, the other exam that you would be largely looking at is LNAT for students within law. The booking again would be starting in 1st of August and will be going across till the 20th of January. Like with UCAT, it's got its different sections, and it would be really looking at your skills for competitive law courses. And it's used by UCL, KCL, LSE, Durham, Bristol, and Glasgow. Now, moving across to the next one, which is just looking at TSA. So TSA is there for public policy, economics, management, experiment in psychology, human sciences. The test dates that are there are between 21st to 27th of October. So again, this is a very important exam. If you're looking across in these various degrees, the ones that I've just mentioned, you may be giving TSA if that application is going for Oxford. Within Cambridge, you've got a separate kind of examination, but on that same trend. At the bottom, the bottom table, you can see these other ones where again, math is a test that you'll be taking for maths or for computer science or for joint degrees in this area or imperial maths. You have ESAT, which is there for engineering and sciences. You've got TMUA, which is again another kind of examination, which is for economics, largely used across for LSC, Durham, Warwick, Bath. Oxford also does a PAT, which is for physics and engineering sciences, and STEP, which is again for Cambridge, Warwick, and Imperial. So these are your various different kind of tests. This is not the complete list itself. This is just a few selected ones that I have, just chosen to share across with you. My suggestion would be that you need to look into all of those various universities through that link that I've shared you, so you can really understand that which university requires what kind of a tariff score, what kind of a test, and you are well prepared before the application deadline approaches. Now, with that said, we are moving into the next part of our session, which is discussing our approach. And while discussing our approach, just putting across the first mission statement, the problem statement precisely, that 93% of the students and the parents that we work with initially really come across with us, which is 7 careers. And with that kind of knowledge, moving them across with giving them understanding about complex university applications, trying to apply to India, trying to apply with globally, putting everything together. How does that really work? So what we do is we first start by understanding the student psychometric test, meeting, various interactions. We do then move into your college counseling, the profile bill, and while we have done all of this, we get the right indication. Is this profile better suited for UK, better suited for USA? And by saying better suited doesn't mean that you do not apply to the second tier of countries. It is just creating a hierarchy of applications. And once the application is done, we help the students in terms of the last steps, in terms of visa and stay guidance, and conclude at with the admission coming through. Yeah, this is to give you an overall timeline of a student working with us. We work with kids right from grade 9, 10th, and 11th. Kids that join us early, we try to work with candidacy building programs. We want to explore their interests. We want to build wide strengths. We talk to them about, either joining a club or initiating a club, learning courses, getting enrolled for academic and non-academic courses, creating pathways for their non-academic activities that I've said. Trinity School of Music is also very important for your UK application. How do I get to that grade 6? How do I get to grade 8 to maximize my score points in that way? And that's what we do in those initial years. We go through a lot of sessions of introspections and self-management in terms of writing out, various personal statement like documents, which is more of like a reflection over the last 6 months, 1 year of work that we do. Eventually getting into 11th, we help students with subject choices, we help them with their capstone projects, the standardized testing that I was just referring to. And finally, in grade 12, the closure of personal statement, the closure of all of your different activities. So by the October or 1st or 15th, you're ready to apply, and majority of applications being ready by 15th of January for submissions. Right. Now, just moving across and showing you a quick amount of success stories that we've had with students that we've worked. in terms of UK. So this was a kid that we got admitted into UK with Cambridge University. So it was a really brilliant kid. Yeah, he had gone and scored I think it was three A's and one A star across the four top subjects that were seen, and had a 96 percentile in the TMUA. And he had authored an original research paper on machine learning models for climate forecasting, which was, presented at the Royal Society Youth Science Forum. He had captained the national finalist chess team as well, and had mentored junior players. He had also had a very good social initiative around himself. So this whole profile really got him into that coveted computer science program at University of Cambridge. Now you could see another example of a kid that went into Birmingham, different kind of activities here. She was much more around Bharatanatyam. She had done district cultural festivals and organizing charity, which raised 1.5 lakhs for rural health. And eventually she went across to University of Birmingham. Right. Now, just to quickly share you the various resources that we always do share at the end of our sessions. We do conduct these master classes every weekend. And as you know, this weekend we had looked at UK. By tomorrow or day after, we would be launching the topic for the next weekend's webinar, in which we'll be taking up either another country or a very specific topic around the admissions, and we'll be taking you in depth as we have done today. And at the same time, you could use all our newsletters. You could use the QR code at the bottom of your screen to, just log into these newsletters. So a lot of information that I've given to you is actually captured in many of them, and you could use them to, further, uh, I think, crystallify the information that I've shared with you. We've got a lot of information on UCAS, the application in terms of the complete guidance for students, how the personal statement is also changing. You can see those two examples on your screen. Now, moving across, these are the other two platforms that we do use for putting out information. You've got your podcast, you've got your WhatsApp, and you could use either of those QR codes to scan that across. Now, this is the last slide in which you could just log in, register with us, and register for a one-on-one session, in which then we will take your individual profile, your individual problems, and try to give you a solution in how your profile can be best applicable for the UK admission. Now, we are done with my presentation now. I will be stopping the share in a couple of seconds, just giving you a few more seconds just to use the opportunity and use the QR code to register. Yeah, otherwise, I am now stopping the share. I'm just leaving the chat section open for all of you guys if there are any set of questions that you would like to share across for me to answer now. Right, so the chat section is open for that. Please feel free to ask any questions that you may have in your mind. Right, so I believe there are no further questions today. Okay, one second. Can we have us? Wait a second. Give us a question. I would request, ma'am, if you could do this on a one-on-one session, because I've got another session to conduct. Would not be able to do it immediately, but you could definitely just register for that one-on-one session. And otherwise, I have taken a note of your name. I'll just pass it down to my team, and they will get in touch with you immediately, and will set up a proper session for you in which we could, understand your questions and your problems and have it resolved in the right way. Right, ma'am? So unfortunately, we won't be able to do it immediately now, but we could, register your request, and we will get back to you with the proper suitable timing, and we will be able to do the session for you. Right. So if there are no other questions, we can conclude the meeting for today. Right. Thank you. So on the other side, I'll just, expect Niharika, if you could just, contact us, we'll definitely have your problems resolved. Thank you.